Baptist Career Army all my life. Yeah, I was a senior in high school playing. Getting ready to start my senior year when he retired. I spent I went from kindergarten through graduated high school at 13 different years. 4 different high schools. 4 different high schools. So I did that. Then I went in the service, had to go in the service myself because when duty called back in my day, you had to go. Went to 38 foreign countries in 4 years.
The bad thing is all the river.
I was in the Navy and I did. Boy, I went to other Vietnam. But I survived it. I got traumatized.
I hate that this is happening. I just I heard that open David Crockett. This guy's
We go with you. Just visiting.
You're gonna have to make sure that
You're okay. That's the one that's got the ejection seat and the drop through floor.
that guy thought it was, oh, okay, drop through the floor. That's the one I was figuring it was.
When we get you to a certain point.
Okay, if we could, I'd call the meeting to order. This is the Hawkins County Board of Education. We have 5 Thank you. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll ask Dr. Bailey if you would please read our conflict of interest and code of ethics.
Those of you that have a personal conflict of interest and or an indirect conflict of interest, do you acknowledge these conflicts of interest for all purposes and actions of this meeting?
I do.
Let the record reflect that all did on both conflicts.
Thank you. I don't know that Mr. Qualls needs much introduction because all of us have met him, but we have found him to be quite pleasant to talk to and easy to talk to in our brief time to get to know him. I've talked to him a number of times, and he's talked to you all. He seems to have been working very hard on searching for a director of schools for us, and I'm anxious to hear and what he has to share with us. So without further ado, I'll just turn it over to Mr. Qualls, and if there's anything we could do, perhaps we need to get him a bottle of water or something.
I might need a shot. I've been working.
It is warm here, so if you want to remove your jacket, feel free to get comfortable. So, Mr. Qualls, welcome to Hawkins County.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and all the board members. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. it's a real pleasure to serve in a role like this. I think I told you before, you all are my 40th opportunity to do such a job as this. It's been very pleasurable meeting each of you, and I want to say for the record today, I have enjoyed meeting each of you. And I also want to add for the record today, Kathy, I see you there. I just realized you're on the screen. I had a call from Mr. Christian this afternoon who had some questions for me, and I went to Mr. Christian and met with him. He told me he was unsure whether or not he would be able to be here tonight, so I wanted to afford him the opportunity to ask any question he might have. We had a very lengthy, detailed, and very delightful and positive discussion. I went through this process that I'm going to go through it here tonight. I did not reveal any names of any candidate that I plan to share with you all tonight, because as I said to him, and as I've said to some of you all are going to find out at the same time. Everybody's going to get these recommendations all at the same time. To me, this is not a game. This is a very serious responsibility, and I take it very seriously. And I know that you do as well, because that is a responsibility that you are elected to this school board for. It is a very serious responsibility, and it is one that you're cast into that role, and it's the time that we do what we're doing. And it's been a privilege to work through this process. I have spent many hours getting to the point where we are tonight. So I wanted to state for the record that Chris and I had a great meeting. In the event that he was not able to get here, I did give him and afforded him the opportunity to ask any questions he would have about this process. And I think the conversation was very good. And I appreciated him giving me that opportunity if he wasn't going to be here. So, what we're going to do first, Jennifer, I think you have a copy there that we can hand out. That is 2 sheets that will have the 6 recommendees on these sheets. Now, before I get too far, I'm not going to give you the resume now, because I don't want you sitting looking at all the resumes while we have the in-depth discussion about the process. You'll get the resumes at the end here. You'll have those to carry with you and go to bed tonight and read them and put you to sleep. So, what you have before you is 2 sheets. These are not in any order except alpha on each sheet. First sheet, you have 3 of your employees that I would recommend that you interview tonight. I have met and talked to those folks all one-on-one. What I want to share with you is just what you see there before you. Just interesting little facts. Jim was principal 8 years, 2 middle schools principal experience. Jim was named to a national council in 2013. Jim has an auspicious title there. He was an All-American athlete in high school, and he had 10 years of experience in the corporate world. Thomas Floyd, degree, current position, superintendent experience, no. Mr. Floyd's worked in the classroom 12 years. I'll go into a little bit more detail how I look at these things. Worked in the classroom 12 years. He's been a head baseball coach in high school. It's pretty unique that he has special ed emphasis there. Your second sheet, Patrick Fraley, his degree, he's currently principal, of course, not in Hawkins County in Greenville, as you well know, no superintendent experience. Mr. Fraley has been a former head high school football coach. US News ranks the Greenville High School the 23rd best high school in Tennessee. Their ACT average is 21.3. He has a good bit of experience both as a teacher and principal. The last two are not names that you're going to recognize. And he said, you need to follow up on him. So in following up, I found the hook. He told me in an extensive 3-hour interview that he and his family, let me cover the fast facts and I'll be able to get into all that. He's known for his recruitment of great teachers. He has been to the Knoxville Job Fair 3 consecutive years looking for great teachers. His primary role is that he is personnel. He deals with more than 1,000 teachers, professional people at his job as assistant superintendent. He's a technology expert. He has experience as a principal in more than one role, and he has 5 kids between the ages of 10 and 16. His wife is a professional, but she has chosen to stay at home with the children. The hook for him was very simple. When I interviewed him and I said to him the first question, why in the world would you have an interest in talking to me? He said, it's pretty simple. Where we wanted to move to raise our kids. And we did many, many weeks of research. And Tennessee was the choice that we wanted to look at. And so I am interested in talking to you, and I'm interested in you interviewing me. So that is why his name is here for your consideration and your interview process. I could tell you a lot more, but you'll be able to see that during the interview process. His system is 10,000 students. I'm sure when you get your packet, you start, if you desire to follow up, I'm sure you'll be able to talk to whomever you need to talk to in that district. You can be assured I've talked to every one of them twice. So he is eminently qualified experience-wise. He's eminently qualified character-wise. And I believe him to be a candidate that is worthy of your consideration. Thomas Sisk, the 6th candidate, very unusual. Dr. Sisk has a doctor, I have to look at that because I have to make myself pronounce it, I hope correctly, cosmetics. He is a nationally known, recognized authority on currency and coins. He holds an EDS in the education field. He has a dual terminal degree there. He is currently the superintendent of Limestone County Schools in Alabama. That's a system of 10,000 students. He has 6 years of experience as a superintendent. He is in the 2nd year of a 5-year contract with his board. The only reluctance I have tonight is trying to make sure we protect him as much as possible as he deals with his board and them asking him the question, so what are you doing? He has a great relationship with his board, but the hook for him is that he is eligible to retire. And it's an opportunity for him to, as he said, go to a place where I want to go, and that's Tennessee and a rural area. He is absolutely eminently qualified. He was, in 2018, one of 300 that was endorsed with national certification. He received the Alabama State Legislative Award 5 consecutive years by all the superintendents in Alabama voting for him. He has led Limestone County to top distinction in career training. That seems to be a great specialty of his. He's also very qualified in the academic side, but he has spent countless hours arranging and working partnerships with industry and businesses for the benefit of students. He just completed an $82 million capital project in Hawkins County. So these are the 6 candidates that I offer to you tonight. I think that you will be pleased as we go through this process of how these folks will handle the interview. And so let's talk about, if you would, let's talk about our process, if you would, for a minute. This is very important. You know that when you asked me to come be involved in this, that we had basically agreed with my acceptance that we would follow a process. And this is very important. And I'll tell you why it is of great importance. This process will be, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Let's see if we can get Kathy.
Oh, did we lose Kathy? Are you there, Kathy?
She's back.
Kathy, can you hear us? I don't think she can hear us.
Kathy, can you hear us?
Hello, Kathy. She's lost in outer space somewhere, right?
Let me just call her quick. Kathy, can you hear us? Kathy, can you hear us?
Can't hear you.
Uh-oh. Can you see us? She can't hear us.
We can hear her, but your microphone's on, she can hear us.
I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Anybody else turn on?
Are you Jack?
Not in this world.
We got bandwidth for this. Whenever he starts talking again, we'll lose the bandwidth.
I can see it, but I can't hear you.
Okay. Okay, make sure that your microphone speaker's on. Reach, hit your screen. Touch the screen. At the bottom there. Can you see the little speaker button in the left-hand corner? Make sure
Did it say speaker on?
okay. Microphone is on.
It says it is. It went out.
Yeah, I turned it off back on.
Oh.
Okay, I'll tell you what we'll do. You was here before, right?
I'm sorry, Nicole.
You could hear us before.
Yes, it just went out.
Let me just disconnect and we'll come back and reconnect again, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Yep, I can hear you.
All right,
All right, and can you hear us?
back to business.
Okay, click on your screen. Click on your screen and hit the video at the bottom. We can't see you.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. We're good to go.
I see
Can you
you're
hear
back.
me, Kathy?
Yes, I can. I
Okay.
can't see you, but I can hear you.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay, you should have a sheet in your handout. I think they all have a sheet. It's called Hawkins, y'all are just like Hickman, by the way. Hickman and Hawkins are twins. That's where I live. Hawkins County Director Search Proposed Schedule. That's really the process. Let me just go through this process step by step so we're all on the same page. And before I start, let me say the important thing about this process. There's two things of great importance, and I have pledged to each of these 6 candidates that we will handle this process professionally, honorably, and transparently. Because it's important that you as a board send the message to your community that we are doing this in a professional, honorable way. So we need to make sure that we treat everybody professionally, honorably, and fairly, and we're gonna do that. This process does that exactly. So try to keep up with me as I go down through this page. Public interviews for 6 semifinal candidates are scheduled for Thursday, October the 11th, beginning at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It is imperative and of the highest importance, without divine intervention, that we all be present and accounted for when we start this process. Because if you're not in, Jackie, you already got a problem? Well,
12th,
on what?
the 12th, October 12th.
You got a problem on the 12th.
That's our community heritage days. I have a food truck.
Well, we'll go through it and then we're gonna back up and see if we can we'll try to figure out how we can, accommodate that because it's important that you're all here, because if you miss one, it won't serve any purpose for the rest, because the scores are gonna be predicated on each candidate each time you interview. And you'll see that as we go through. So Jackie, we'll come back and address that issue here in a second. Let's just say for the purpose of discussion, we're starting on the 11th, 5 Eastern Standard Time. It will be a set question instrument, and it will be prepared from questions from I'll put this thing together based on what you want me to put into these questions. You've got ample time to study through what questions you think are important. If you want to talk to people in your community, if you want to talk to anybody, say, what do you think's important that we need to ask? That's great. Just so I can get the questions, because when I get them, it's an intensive 3 or 4 day process for me. I've got to sit down and I'll take all those questions and spread them out. There'll be some common questions that all of you would say, well, this is important to ask. And I will put together the instrument that we'll use based on your questions, and I'll try to do the best I can to put it in a fluid fashion so we can ask those where they will flow. Meaning that if I have to change a word or two, it's not going to change what your question is, but to make it flow, I may have to do that. But it's pretty intensive work to have to get all that put together, so that when we come together, I will assign the That's the important part of this process. Because by doing that, you are showing that we are gonna be fair, we're gonna be impartial, and we're gonna be transparent in this process, and we're gonna be professional about it. So, some folks say, well, if you're gonna ask the same question of all six, then that's unfair to number 4, 5, and 6 if they're the next night, because they might come and listen to the questions. I can tell you from my experience of 39 other times, I can tell you this, here's my answer. It doesn't matter to me if you got the questions, because you're gonna have to sit down in this chair right here and answer that question in a public interview. There's a lot of difference if you know the question, if you don't. There's a lot of difference in knowing it and then sitting here and telling you what their answer is, because you gotta remember, this interview is 60 minutes long. Not 61 minutes, 60. But you're also gonna have to be able to frame that answer in a time frame that will get you through this protocol. So, 60 minutes, no more. Could be less. I have been in one interview where it lasted 19 minutes. They said yes, no. They also finished last. So, we will have a very strict time limit on each candidate in this semifinal round. Each board member will evaluate, very critical, each board member you can't go home and say, you know, I think I need to go back and change the score. I need to score somebody higher. So you have to be level-minded in your scoring as you go through this process. And at the end of the 6th interview, we'll take a break. The chairman, whomever's responsibility, needs to appoint 3 people, and I will be a 4th that will sit and we'll open each one of these envelopes, and we'll score each candidate by board member to get a total score. At the end, you're gonna have 6 total scores, with your 2 high scores becoming your 2 finalists. Everybody understand? Your 2 high scores will be your finalists. Not necessarily that you have to do anything, it's just automatically, that's part of the process. Your 2 high scores become your 2 finalists. The 2 finalists then will conduct that interview, I think, kind of set it on the date of October 22nd. Jackie, is that a problem with that one?
Not right now.
Okay, not right now. So we will schedule that on a Monday evening, beginning at 5. My suggestion to you, I've read your board. But you do that in the afternoon before the final interview is held. When we go into our final interviews, there will be no set protocol in the final interviews. That's why the semifinals is designed this way. The semifinals is designed not to necessarily pick who you want to be the superintendent. It's to pick the two people by score who will become the finalists. So in the final interview, it will be 60 minutes, but you can ask any question you want to ask. Anything you want to ask. Like I said before, if you want to ask somebody how much they weigh, you can do that, but you might be in court tomorrow. So you have to use some, common sense about that. But you can ask a candidate. I noticed, that you had 2 or 3 positions. I'm just curious, why did you change this position and go to that position? Was there a problem? You can ask those kinds of questions. You can ask anything you want. So as long as we try to do it on a fair basis, and Bob, we'd have to try to make sure that you start with one board member, let them have the opportunity to ask questions, go around, and then start back around until our time's up. In both the semifinal round and the final, we would give every candidate, when they sit down in this chair, 2 or 3 minutes to make an opening statement to you. Then we'll start, both in the semifinal and final, they could do that. And then we'll start the interview session. At the end of their 60 minutes, we would also permit them to have a or none. If someone gets a simple majority of the board by law, then you have qualified that person to then be in a position where you would ask for a motion second that you'd enter into negotiations with that person. So that's kind of quick tour through the process. And ask any question. I'll try to answer anything that you've got on your mind. I will say to you folks, honestly, if you'll just stay the course in this process, I promise you, it will be professional, open, and fair, and it will yield the results that it's supposed to yield.
Mr. Potts, let me start off by asking this question.
Okay.
In the interviews of the 6 finalists, what if we started off a little bit stronger on grading, if that's the right term, scoring, and by the time we got to the 6th, we weren't hardly as severe as we was the first one we interviewed. Is there something built into this that we can, I know we can't go back and change scores, but how do you keep from doing that?
That's why I try to be real clear to everybody. You've got to be level-minded starting out. By the way, I've kept up in the 39 searches I've done, because I've heard people say, well, if I'm the first one, I'm at a disadvantage. 55% of the people that's been in these sections over the 39 times I've done it, 55% of the person who went first ended up in the final. So you'd think the person at the end would have a little advantage. 25% of those ended up in the final. So it's just, you have to be level-headed in your thinking, and you can't come out of the gate and the first candidate, whomever it is, if I'm the first candidate, you say, boy, he's really good, I'm gonna give him all 5s. No, you can't do that. Nobody deserves all 5. But by the same token, nobody deserves all 1s. Because you gotta keep in mind, these are public records. These are public records. Your score sheet's gonna be a public record. So you've got to keep in mind that level thinking when that first candidate sits down, Bob, to answer your question, you just got to try to really be level-minded and thinking, I've got to keep my focus on that band width there, that I'm not unfair to the first one or the 5th one. So that's a legitimate question, but there's not anything built in. It's just that I have to defend, and you have to depend on each other, that we're going to try to be fair, level-minded in that approach. That's a good question. It's one that I've heard 39 other times, by the way. divinely hindered, and Dick, if we're divinely hindered, we'll have to call on you to.
Well, that could be one of my problems if I were to have a church member to die.
Oh, well.
And be at the funeral home and have that service that evening. I mean, I'm almost positive their family wouldn't like it if I canceled that.
And we understand.
However, I mean, I could explain to them the situation I have here and maybe get them to put it off a day or two, which I would.
Well,
But I always have run into those situations.
I truly understand, and that is a legitimate concern. But let's go back to Jim.
And I may be able to have somebody, that just kind of threw me off right now, to see if I can get somebody to fill in for me on Friday night.
Well, the only other option I can think of sitting here would be we just bump back one day and do a Wednesday, Thursday, but that's gonna interfere with church on Wednesday night. So, I mean, I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, I can deal with that as far as that goes.
If you need it, if that would help, I don't mind backing up. I mean, but we need to decide that tonight.
Sure.
If you think you can get someone to sit in and we stay with that arrangement, that's okay. If not, we need to decide that tonight, because I'm gonna have to talk to every one of these candidates. I'm gonna have to spend hours talking to them about all these things.
It is critical, though, to do those 2 interviews back to back, would you say?
Well, it's critical because you've got 2 people here from out of town,
Sure.
and I'm not gonna ask the guy to come from California, and he's coming on his dime, because I told him emphatically, we're not paying your expenses. He said, I've made preparations. When I take vacations, I take a vacation in a tent with my wife and kids in a state park, so I try to live within my means. So, but I'm not gonna ask somebody like him, say, oh, by the way,
Sure.
after I tell him the dates, we change, and then he's got a ticket to come, that's not fair to me.
Sure. We've heard from Techie on a Wednesday night. Kathy, do you know of any conflicts if we had to move it back to the 10th of October?
I'm perfectly fine with the 10th or the 11th, and the 11th or 12th. All 3 of those days are fine with me.
Okay.
I have no problem.
Thank you. Chris is not here for us to ask, but myself personally,
He's okay.
He's okay?
I went through this entire process with Kurt. He's okay.
I will make myself available on
He's
Wednesday.
fine with how the process is. He's fine with the date.
Okay. I'll make myself available on the 10th and the 11th if that's what the board, if we'll just go on and straw vote here.
I'm fine either way, Wednesday, Thursday, or Thursday, Friday.
Okay. Holly,
I'm scheduled Thursday and Friday, but I can make whatever work.
you can make Wednesday work if we had to. Okay. So, Jackie, do you want to just go ahead and?
Hold on just a second. Talking.
Thank you all, though, for being understanding of trying to work your schedules out. I know it is a church night, and most of us would be there, but hopefully they'll understand.
And I'm like Ted, if it's a Wednesday night, I just have to repent sometimes.
Well, my biggest problem is not only do I have to hold the service, but I have to drive the bus, pick up all the kids and all that stuff too. When you're the pastor, you get to do it all. Sweep the floor, pick up the trash.
Clean the bathroom.
Yeah, all that good stuff. But I can make provisions for one night.
It's such an important task that the board has to fulfill, and we've got to get this right. And I appreciate all the effort that Mr. Paul has gone to, and our discussions and the people that he has talked to. He has spent, I don't know if he's kept up with his hours on the telephone and talking to all the people that you vet, trying to go through layers of references. I think he has done that, at least what he shared with me. So we're very appreciative of that.
Well, and also, I have spoken to all these face to face, with the exception of Mr. Dixon, but I've spent 5 hours on the phone with him and probably 25 hours on phone about him. So I always say I will not recommend anybody unless it's a face to face, but I have the others. Dr. says 4.5 hour face to face interview. So don't get there by just giving you a name.
Don't be looking at me. Y'all know I can't type.
But I might keep off with this process. If just saying, I'm going to put a number out there. Number 3 is very strong, and I love what he says, and I love the answers that he gives on the questions. And number 5 is just as strong, and maybe something else I like more. It's really gonna be a job.
But Holly, you know, the thing about that, the way it works though, you think that way, Michelle may think that way
With the
about
seven
another.
of us,
And
right.
what the process does, it levels the playing field. I mean, it does. Unless you try to game it, and it's pretty hard to game. Not impossible. I've seen it done, tried.
What if a board member is absent for whatever reason? Does that skew our algorithm or
Well,
matrix? whatever
it
you call
does, that's why we just have to keep our fingers crossed and ask Techie to pray that we're all here.
Yeah.
Because if something does happen and it's just impossible, we just have to figure out how we're gonna handle that.
Okay.
And that might mean that we'll have to arbitrarily drop a score out or whatever, we'll work it out. But we just have to we try to keep our fingers crossed and divine intervention that everybody's gonna make it like we should, and it'll work out like that.
Okay. We're not gonna.
We can, Bob, if necessary, if we absolutely had to, we'll make whatever work, but it will, I promise you, whatever it is, it's gonna be fair, it's gonna be transparent, everybody's gonna know what we're gonna do.
We're not gonna preclude any of the finalists from sitting in and listening to the competitors.
You may not, but I do,
Okay.
so.
I'm good.
Be up to them to decide that, but I ask every candidate, it is not professional decorum that you attend another candidate's interview. You should not attend another candidate's interview.
Does anybody want to speak to that? Dave, you got any feelings one way or the other about that in terms of the applicant sitting in on another applicant's interview?
I don't really have any comment on it. I don't know. I wouldn't want to if it were me.
I'll go next. I'm like Techie. I don't think that would be something I would want to do if I was a finalist. I would want to be interviewed and selected on my merits, not on what I've learned from somebody else's interview. So I'm kind of with Techie on that. So, however, we'll decide. Debbie?
I would agree, and for the person who goes first, it's not fair to that person, because he doesn't get to sit in on anybody else's interview. So I would agree, I think it's unprofessional to sit in on another person, candidate's interview.
Agree.
Same. Thoughts, Jackie?
I like what she said.
Kathy? Jackie?
I agree. I wouldn't, if I were going for an interview, I wouldn't want other candidates being in the room with me. And I'm sure I can understand why they would want to be in the room either. So, yeah, I agree with that.
Okay,
Well,
so-
in the briefing that I would have with each of these people before the semifinal interviews, I would say that anyway, but now that you have felt that way, that makes it even better, but I always say, do not go to any other interview except your.
That would be our request, I think.
Now-
It's more professional.
Now-
And by the way, I'm gonna be Good Friday.
Oh,
See,
okay.
I'm trying to
All
tell you,
right,
was
we're good.
ignoring me.
Okay. So take your weekend, don't worry about waiting.
Forget about it, I still got to drive that bus.
Sorry.
Get one Wednesday night off.
I will tell you too, that it's my, style, I guess I should say, or my habit, that when we get to the finals, I will have a meeting with the two finalists beforehand. And I will say to both of them, not anything except from your standpoint, but from mine personally, you're in the finals, act like it, be professional, whomever, there's only gonna be one winner, whomever that is, you need to conduct yourself with professional decorum, period. I always say that to the finalists, whether there's 2 or 5, it doesn't matter. I just finished one last week, there were 3. We had the meeting, and I said that exactly to them, and they behaved wonderfully. So, that's just part of being, this business we're in. It must be conducted on a high level professional basis, and that's what we should expect. Now, since Jackie says she's gonna make Friday work,
That would be nice for you too.
did we hand the schedule out then for, it's already out, you saw the schedule there, of the times, the way this was decided, Wayne Qualls didn't decide this, Wayne Qualls' wife drew the names out of the hat. She doesn't know anybody's madam. So those names were written on a piece of paper and she drew them out, and the first one comes out, goes in the first slot, and the last one left comes out, goes in the last slot. That's how we arrived at this schedule.
That's as random as you can get, isn't it?
Pardon me?
That's as random as you can get.
Learned a long time ago, you better be careful about that, because alpha order is a little unfair. About the fairest way to do it is just throw them out of the hat.
Let me ask you this, in
Yes,
terms
sir.
of protocol, we narrow this down to 2 and then we select one.
Mhm.
At that stage, we would go into negotiations on a contract, salary, benefits, and all that. Hypothetically, what if we could not come together? Where would we be then?
Well, my recommendation to you on that would simply be that you should not do it that night. You should let everything settle out. And you all need to appoint a couple, 2 or 3 of you to serve, to interface with that candidate and try to work through the contract agreement, try to get a contract agreement, then bring back to the board, and the board would have to vote that contract up. But my experience doing it that night, it doesn't serve anybody's purpose very well. You need to let everybody kind of get a aha moment and get the breath, and within a week or so, you need to do that, and then you're gonna have to have a meeting and deal exclusively with the approval.
Did you ask a question?
We can meet a couple of members with the candidate. As
It
a
would have to be a public meeting. If 2 board members meet with a candidate, it would have to be a sunshine type meeting.
That's at night.
I had another question, I just went blank.
Sorry.
Don't say that.
Wayne, just 1 second, could you again tell me about, go back over the preference sheet that you,
Oh, okay, yeah, the preference sheet would only come at the end of the finals interview.
right,
You would get a sheet that had both finalists' names, and you would be asked to check one of those as your preference, personally. And if somebody gets a simple majority preference, then at that point, you would be in order to have a motion to officially, and what you hope for in this, folks, is you, whomever that person is deserves a unanimous support. Now, I'm not gonna tell you that's what happened, but it always pretty much has happened. You may not get the preference you want, but you sort of owe it to a candidate who has gone through this process and has been, preferred by a majority, that you sign on and say, we're gonna all start on an even keel. So that's what you hope the outcome would be. Jackie, the answer then is you'll have a preference sheet. Once somebody gets a majority of preferences, if that's their preference, then you're in order. The chairman will take a motion to approve that person to be the one you'd enter into negotiation.
I remember the question.
Okay.
You have shared with the applicants what the starting salary
I
is
have.
currently budgeted at, so
I have.
they know that coming in.
I have, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So,
I have, and I have told folks that if you know that and you get to the finish line and you say, I'm not gonna do it, don't ever call me again. Because they understand these things going on.
good. That's no question. Yeah, we didn't want to get through this process and get to that stage and then say.
You've been there and done that.
Yeah,
I have to.
yeah. Just, that's just not enough money, and we start all over and all your work's been in vain. We don't want to do that, so, that's my.
Well, my goal is to help you all through this process. I'm not gonna get in your way. I'm just trying to help you get through a process that's difficult. so that we're fair and transparent and professional, so that the community sees that's what we're doing.
I'm interested in what a 1 is, a 3 is, and what a 5 is. Is 1 weak, is 3 average, and is 5 perfect, or what do you?
Nope, I'll tell you, I have a sample here. 1 is poor, 2 is fair, 3 is average, 4 is above average, 5 is acceptable.
Okay.
So it's pretty straightforward in there. And remember, you're not evaluating that candidate's capability. You're evaluating that candidate as what you believe, how they answered that, because they all should be capable of doing the job. You're trying to evaluate your personally, each candidate, on how they can answer that question. A, what's their body language? You gotta take all these things into consideration. If they're squirming around, if they're nervous, and they're trying to figure out what they're gonna answer, that's part of how you evaluate how they handle that question. So, it's not a way that it's not a negative thing that you're trying to say, this person's just not qualified. Based on the basis of the qualifications, these are all qualified. It's just that we're trying to get through this and find the best person who fits what you want for a director of school. And it will do that.
This is Thursday, September the 13th. Will a week's time be enough for everybody to come up with the questions they would like to submit?
He's already said October 1st.
Would that?
Yeah, October
Okay.
1st. But like I said, I need a full week myself, because at the time I get finished, I will then circle back to each of these candidates. We'll go over the process. They will not get the question. I'm just saying, I will just make sure that everybody understands. You got 60 minutes.
Sure.
You gotta be ready. You gotta be prepared.
What I'd like to do is submit those to Ms. Jennifer and let her collate those, and if we've asked the same question, but we don't have the same question asked 7
I
times.
object to that. I'd rather Mr. Wallace do that. Cause he's gonna go through and check the questions anyway, and if there's any duplications, he can do that.
How would you, what format would you want us to do? Email
You
those to you?
you can
or-
email me personally the questions. You can email them to Jennifer, maybe copy, but email me the questions and they don't have to be anything formal, just your thought. You just type it out and say, hey, I'd like this to be consideration for a question. How do you deal with an ineffective principal? You know, I wanna know what the candidate's gonna say there. Who's gonna evaluate the central office staff? Just send me the question. I'll put all that in a format. See, I may even take, if you had 2 or 3 little simple questions, I'll probably formulate that into one big question that you would evaluate them on.
You'll go back
I'm
and
gonna
work
try to
it.
get as many of your responses that you want into this protocol.
Is everybody good with that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, you give us your email
Yeah,
address?
yes, sir. It's pretty horrible. Wayne Qualls, WayneQualls 1948. It's not my weight, it's my age. 1948 @gmail.com.
Say that again, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wayne Qualls, it's WayneQualls 1948 @gmail.com. And what you do this, I'd ask you to do this. When you send me your questions, just remind me, let me know you got them, so I can respond, I got your question, so I'll know, you'll know.
Okay. So, we got a little bit of work to do in the next few weeks, and we'll try to get those submitted to you as soon as we can, and give you a chance, and you'll take the liberty of trying to put all those together and wordsmith them in a way that's understandable.
Yes, sir, I will, I promise you.
And then we'll get those back prior. Will we get those the day of the interviews?
You'll get them the day of when we sit down, and there's a reason for that, because I'm thinking about you. I don't want anybody to come up to you and say, will you give me the questions? If you got them, you're gonna have to be in the box and say, I can't do that. If you hadn't got them, you won't have to have that temptation.
That's good.
You'll get them when you sit down, and what I'll do, if Techie sends me, I've got 3 of his questions. When he sits down, he's gonna get the questionnaire for the first person that we're gonna interview, and his is gonna be highlighted. Becky, you got question number 1, you got question number 7, you got question number 17. Bob, you got number 3, 5, and 20. And you're gonna ask that same question to all 6. But you won't get it until that night, because I'm not gonna put you in the box that you'll have to deal with those kind of questions. But it'll be easy enough, it's not any big deal for you, because they're gonna be your questions. So,
Could be our questions, not our particular question.
well, they'll be the questions you're gonna ask are gonna be the ones you submit to me.
Okay, all right.
I may have to change some wording in it to
Okay.
make it flow, but yes, I'm gonna try to match you up to the questions you
Okay.
wanted to ask. Yes, absolutely. These are not gonna be my questions, these are yours.
Right. But I didn't know if
Yeah,
Techie would ask a question that I had.
no.
Yeah.
I'll work all that out.
Okay.
No, absolutely,
Gotcha.
absolutely.
All right. Any
Oh,
other?
and, excuse me, Jennifer, I think you have a packet for everybody there. And, each of you get a packet, and what you're gonna have in your packet will be the resumes. Will be, by the way, I've asked each candidate to write an essay. That's included in your packet, you'll have that for good late night reading. And, so you'll have all the information I think you need prior to coming to an interview. And, I think maybe, Jennifer, I can't remember, did you put it, is that what, anything else in that pack? I think it's just the essays and the resume. So you should have your schedule, you should have, the process outlined, the resumes and the essays. So all you'll need to do is just show up and be ready. I'll take care of the rest, getting everything ready.
How can we go about getting these into the hands of Mr. Christian and Ms. Craddock? We gonna mail or? Okay. Kathy, did you hear that? That she would be mailing your packet tomorrow morning?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Is
that's
that
perfect.
satisfactory with you?
That's absolutely fine.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So all minds clear?
Motion to adjourn.
There is a big ball game tonight. You might want
Oh,
to
I
go
do.
to.
Well, you're okay, 30 minutes.
All those in favor of adjourning, please stand.